I'm so annoyed. I literally filmed 90% of this and I'm like, oh, maybe I should check if it's recording. Didn't record anything. Whatever. It is what it is. Hi everyone. How are you doing today? Okay, no. Seriously, how are you really? Man, I hear you. Okay. I can't pretend to know what you said. Obviously, I'm just talking to a camera, but I mean, I'm doing all right. Well, much better after reading this book. Y'all know I'm an Eckhart Tolle stan, okay? So clearly, it was inevitable that I was going to summarize this book, just like I did with A New Earth. So after going through this book for the third time, every time that I am reading it again, there's always something new and enlightening that I didn't realize before. And so saying that, I really suggest, if you're interested in anything spiritual, this is a huge book that you have to get and read yourself. An audiobook, I kind of do both. But I still want to attempt to give you guys a summary because that's what we do here, right? This book is basically formatted as like a question and answer. So there'll be a question and then Tolle will answer it. And through those question and answers, we kind of understand more about ourselves. You are not your mind. The reason for all suffering is the identification with our mind, the voice inside our head. Our ego, as Tolle explained in A New Earth, which by the way, I summarized also, so if you want to get a more understanding of the ego, please go check out that video. We are identified with the voice in our head, with our mind, the ego, because it sounds a lot like us. It sounds literally just like me. And the loop has been playing for so long, we forget that it's still even playing and it's just making a lot of fucking noise. The ego is the problem. And I mean, I think we all know that, but understanding what the ego is and how it shows up for you is the biggest hurdle. But in summary, it is the inner critic. It is that scared little part of you that is deathly afraid that your biggest fears are true, that you're unworthy, you're unlovable, just piece of shit. So what does it do? It tells you that you're unworthy, unlovable, just in case that it's true. And then if something in the outside world happens to make you feel unlovable and unworthy, it will try to make you feel better by complaining, making yourself feel more superior, all this stuff that is very just unhelpful at the end of the day. It looks for evidence to prove that we're worthy, but then on the same breath tells you that you are unworthy just in case it's true. Say for example, maybe your friend doesn't want to talk to you anymore and it makes you feel unworthy and unloved. The whole time you were in that friendship, your brain was telling you, damn, you're so unlovable. And then when it actually happens in the real world, you're like, fuck, maybe I am unlovable. And then your ego is like, no, they suck. They can't. They're stupid, which is unhelpful. Make it make sense, I know. It's like a child. It constantly is trying to do trial and error until something doesn't work anymore. And it turns out the way the ego's been doing it so far has worked. We do things out of fear of failure. We have all these successes, but we never cherish them because our ego tells them they're not really that great, just to preface us in case they aren't great. We work from a place of fear, and at a certain point, that's just not going to work anymore. We are not our mind. We are not our ego. We are so much more beyond this. And one of the first chapters in this book, Tolle says, I cannot live with myself any longer. This was the thought that kept repeating itself in my mind. Then suddenly, I became aware of what a peculiar thought it was. Am I one or am I two? If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me, and that I and the self that I cannot live with. There are two voices in our head. And the way that I like to think about it, and I keep thinking about it, is there's the devil on our right shoulder and the angel on the left. And the devil and angel are constantly bickering with each other and telling us what we should be doing. But in fact, neither one of them is who we are. The devil is constantly just saying, nagging us and just making a lot of noise and whatever. And the angel's kind of quiet most of the time because it doesn't really need the ego shit. But the devil is the one that you can't seem to live with. And they're like an old married couple that never wanted to get married in the first place. It was probably an arranged marriage or something. Guess what though? You are not the devil and you're not the angel either. You are both. You are you. Neither of them. We need both the devil and the angel in our minds in order to keep us going. Because if we just live with the angel, everything would be rainbows and butterflies and we would not have a filter. If it was just a devil, honestly, that would just really look. The end to all suffering is the disidentification with our mind and the ego. This is far easier said than done, okay? I mean, what does this even mean? When we are identified with our minds, we have also identified ourselves with the external material things in this world. Identification with the mind means that we're constantly beggars looking for validation on the external world that will never actually be enough. We're looking for scraps of pleasure to make us feel a little bit good, but it only lasts a little bit because we haven't been able to find these things in ourselves, so we look for it in other places. Identification with the mind is the inability to stop thinking and it sucks. Say my friend stopped talking to me, and that makes me really sad and probably unloved and unworthy of her at all. That means I am unworthy and I am unlovable and I am a bad person. Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. And that is a huge mistake of all humanity. We think something and we identify ourselves with the thought in our mind. We identify with our minds and we equate thinking with who we are. We identify with the egoic thoughts to what our identity is. And that's huge. And that's honestly almost egoic. Egoic because it's almost egoic to think that these small little things that happen in the external world mean this huge thing about who you are as a human being. X thing happened in the world equals I am unworthy. So what's the solution? Well, it's consciousness. The only liberation from the egoic mind is the present moment. What? It's the power of now. Much of our pain and suffering is highly unnecessary. The pain is always caused by resistance to what is, what the present moment is. And as long as there's resistance to what is, there is resistance to the present moment, and therefore we can never fully be alive, living.
Why does the mind habitually deny or resist the now? Because it cannot function and remain in control without time, which is the past and future, so it perceives the timeless now as threatening. Time and mind are in fact inseparable.
The mind is able to take control of your body, your entire body, by bringing up something probably sad about your past or something you're anxious about in the future. The timeless world of the present moment is threatening to the ego because it can't live there. Our mind does not have control in the present because if you're truly in the present, your mind stops thinking and you experience the world for what it is. Because there's nothing to complain about in the present moment. There are no real problems in the present moment. Sure, there are things in your life that's probably shitty. And these life situations, and Eckhart Tolle calls them life situations and not life, but the situation is exactly the way that it needs to be. It is what it is. And we can't change it. So the only problem that we have in the current moment is the fact that we're worried about other moments in the past or in the future. The ego is only searching to be whole, and it resists the only thing that will make it feel whole. The present. It's so scared of being whole, it self-sabotages. It doesn't realize what its own problem is. It's like the ego can't accept that it's a problem because it is the problem. That's the nature of the ego. So we have to tell it kindly. We have to teach it kindly. I mean, it's only afraid after all. It's working out of fear. And the way to convince a scared child is not by yelling at them more. Honestly, that's probably gonna make them more scared, okay? It's by nurturing it. You can be kind to it instead of yelling and screaming. Sympathize with it. And soon it will start to get quieter and quieter. I mean, it still comes up all the time, but for me it's less. And I'm hoping that as time goes by, it'll be even less, okay? How to live in the present moment. If the present moment is the answer, then how do we get there? How can we remind ourselves to constantly stay in this moment? Because it's not gonna be your mind, I'll tell you that. And your ego is definitely not gonna remind you because it doesn't want that. It will be your consciousness, and your consciousness will remind you the power is now. Not 20 minutes from now when you're watching Netflix, and not after 300 hours of meditation. It's right now. We need to learn to live with the ego and teach it to work for us. Tell them that the criticism needs to come out of love and not fear. The answer is to end the delusion of time. To be identified with the mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through the memory and anticipation. This creates an endless preoccupation with the past and future, and an unwillingness to acknowledge and honor the present moment and allow it to be. There was never a time when your life wasn't now, nor will there ever be. So what has helped me to, register all this? And by no means am I an expert, but literally as I was writing about the delusion of time, I was thinking about how little time I had to write this video and how I've been spending so much time on this one because this one took a lot of time. And how stressed I was about how I'm not gonna finish and there's no time. Literally as I was writing this. And what has helped me to start letting go is realizing that I don't have control over the outcome. Expectations will always lead to disappointments. I'm worried that the outcome won't be exactly as I expected, but the reality is the expectation is what creates the anxiety in the first place. I am allowed to have dreams and I'm allowed to have goals, but that doesn't mean that I need to know exactly the way it's gonna turn out, and it needs to play out exactly the way I thought about it in my head. The only way into the present moment is to surrender to the anxiety, to surrender to the present moment, because the past is unchangeable and the future is uncontrollable. So there's no need to worry about it. The ego wants to remind us of the fear because it's scared that we will forget our dreams and ambitions and become nothing of ourselves and prove that we are unworthy the thing that we're afraid of. But fear is actually what is holding us back. Your hunger for success won't go away because of fear. It will come from love. It will come from your just sheer desire of wanting that for yourself. And instead of just having an outcome, it will be, what can I do in this present moment to get closer to my goal? And then anything you do will be a success because you did it in the present moment. You will have lived your life here. And when you're old and gray, you won't have any regrets because you lived your life exactly the way that it was intended to live. You are aware of where you want to go, but you honor and give your fullest attention to the step you are taking at this moment. We will still have problems, but it's about realizing that there are no problems. Nothing real can be threatened. Focus your attention on the now and tell me what problem you have in this moment. It's impossible to have problems in the mind, totally in the now. So my problem right now is that I'm hungry, but that's also future, right? This is extremely radical because we have created our identity around our problems. You won't stop suffering until you are truly fed up with suffering, unless you have truly had enough. The mind has strategies for constantly taking you out of the now. So the solution is just to be aware and start to watch the way you think and talk to yourself and how the mind takes you away from the present moment. It's not an easy feat by any means. Quite the opposite. It actually takes a lot of awareness, but as I've said before, our mind is like a child. It complains, it nags, it whines, and honestly, a lot of the time it's just making a lot of noise. But if you're able to watch your thoughts without judgment, you will realize that it didn't make a lot of sense in the first place. We mentioned previously that the ego cannot survive in the present moment, in the now. It doesn't want to live there because it knows it can't survive there. We can't have that. At the end of the day, the ego does want the best for us. It wants the best for our form on earth. However, it doesn't realize the problem itself is the ego. It's like walking around and realizing that you are your own problem. And it's the ego that has to deal with this. So it's like, oh my God, no way. It's I'm egoic and I'm this. So I'm not the problem, you're the problem. Now, that's a hard pill to swallow. It knows that the present moment is its own death and it feels threatened by it. It will try to keep you trapped in time. The ego's main strategy for taking you out of the now is, you guessed it, past and future.
If you find the here and now intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have 3 options. Remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it totally. If you want to take responsibility for your life, you must choose one of these 3 options, and you must choose now. Then accept the consequences.
If you choose to fuck around and watch Netflix, and that's what you choose to do, then just watch it. Fully watch it. Really concentrate on it. And just fuck around totally. And you'll realize that you no longer really even want to watch Netflix. When you feel the fear in your body, which kind of just feels like, oh. Don't try to ignore it. Don't try to just like push it away. Really feel it and really connect with it and try to figure out what this present moment is making you feel that way. And then don't let it rise up to your mind because that's when it gets toxic. Catching yourself not being present is presence. And once you can guide your mind to the present moment, you will be more in touch with your body and are able to experience the world around you more clearly. And it's through our 5 senses that we can do this. And then we can fully be present here. Experience the beauty that is life. Literally slowing down to not only smell the roses, but also touch it, see it, hear it, taste it. I don't know what you want to do, live your own life, you know? Really experiencing it instead of worrying about tomorrow. I mean, wouldn't that be nice, you know? LOL. And the only way to do that is to surrender to the present moment. Keep reminding yourself whenever you find yourself worried, be like, surrender. Find ways to remind yourself of what's really true. The only thing that truly matters, the present, the here. Surrender to whatever destiny holds because you can't control it anyway. And your life will still have problems. There's no way to have a life of just being happy and giddy all the time. You're gonna have emotions, and don't deny yourself the emotions that are the epitome and the beauty of being a human being. But you can accept the emotion for the emotion that it is, and when you can fully let yourself feel it, it's easier to let go of that feeling too, especially if it's negative. Complaining about this situation won't help you do it, and it won't alleviate any pain. It'll just release it for like a second, which is okay. It's okay to complain, but like just get it out, let yourself feel it. What's the point of infecting your brain with all this toxicity when you don't have to? When there's a way out, it's not that deep, you guys. Okay, I don't have to convince you, but I hope you got something out of the summary. And did you read the book? Did you interpret the same way that I did? Or something different? Because I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this entire video. I can't believe you're still here. I really appreciate you guys. I will see you guys in the next one. I will see you. I had a good time. Fuck it. Bye.